From the iconic Corky and Lenny's Restaurant and Delicatessen in Woodmere, Ohio, we are the Fabulous Boomer Boys.
All right.
All right. I'm Bob Snyder. This is my friend from the 4th grade. I'm sorry, Bruce Bogart, and we're still friends.
Barely.
And this is like about the 35th show, and we're still made
friends, but what time is it?
Time to talk about what's going on this week in our show. All right, let's start right off the bat. Who saw me on Channel 19 News? Did you see me, Bruce?
No.
Harry Boomer. I was out at the it's been All-Star Week in Cleveland. And we want to thank those of you that have come to our show tonight. You'll still get home and watch the All-Star game, and hopefully tomorrow when you're watching this on YouTube, it'll have been a good one. But I went down with Barry Siegler, who you know, and we checked out the festivities for the convention that they had for the All-Star game. And I got to tell you, I felt like a 12-year-old. It made me feel good. Walking around, watching all these kids with all that, they had Babe Ruth's bat there, and they had a Jackie Robinson display. I don't know if you know this, they're going to have an entire museum for Jackie Robinson in Brooklyn, New York. It's going to be opening later this year, and the curator was there. So we got to talk to a woman about Jackie Robinson, and we were walking around, and there is Harry Boomer. And we started talking to him, and he said, "Hey guys, can I ask you a few questions?"
Did he know who you were?
He will. But anyway, so Harry said, "Okay, we're going on in 2 minutes." So of course Barry and I said, "Wait a minute, we're going to do a live feed." He said, "Yeah, this is on their 4 to 6 o'clock news." So I said, "Let me call my wife." I want to at least know somebody saw me on here, right? So I called my wife. Said she'd watch. Next thing, Harry puts the microphone to me, and basically, I thought it would not be cool to push our show. Right? Is that okay?
Right.
Okay. Right? Okay. So, but I did say, as a baby boomer, it was great to be here because it's probably going to be the last time I'll be able to attend a Cleveland All-Star game. Right? That comes about every 20 years. Yeah, you know. And we said how fabulous it was, but also for any age group or whatever. And we had a good time talking to Harry, and he put it on live. And I just thought maybe you were probably working, so you didn't see it.
That's a compelling story, Bob.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Next subject was the All-Star. Oh, I don't want to forget this.
Yeah, enough about Bob. Let's talk about Bob.
Neil Zerker. Remember one-tank trips, right? Those of you from anybody from Cleveland, one-tank. Okay, he's going to be our guest in 2 weeks. He's going to be here live at Corky and Lenny's, and we're going to be talking about one-tank trips. But he also covered some major news events when he was a reporter at Channel 8, including Kent State, and well, all kinds of things. I'm going to let him talk about it.
You ever go on a one-tank trip with your family?
I think a lot of them. I think when they talk one-tank trips, I don't think they mean you have to use the whole tank. I mean, you can go to like Cedar Point and back.
That's a one-tank trip?
That
would be in
would the audience agree? That's close to like a one-tank trip, right? Cedar Point, yeah. I've gone to some of the bed and breakfasts around town. I went to Hinckley Hills. Now there's a good example. That's for sure a one-tank trip. Hocking Hills. That's a one-tank trip.
Well, that's in 2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks. So
what about tonight?
Tonight? Oh boy. What have we got here? We're a little nervous because we got to look good and act good for this guy. John Gorman, we're going to bring him out right now. We'll tell you all about him here, but I know if anybody ever listened to the radio in Cleveland, you know John Gorman's work. So everybody, big hand for John Gorman. Come on up. Bring him up, Alan. Bring him up. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, I've got to tell you, I'm a little nervous, and I don't get nervous too often. People who have been here know that. But I'm a little nervous having you here tonight. It kind of reminds me, I was listening to Howard Stern today, okay? And they were talking about how Lorne Michaels would go to Second City. Mm-hmm. And when he would go there, and if he thought somebody was good, he'd steal them for Saturday Night Live, right? So I'm thinking, here we are, Bruce, with John Gorman, you know, this icon, legend in Cleveland broadcasting.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be on our show. I'm kind of thinking, you know, we got to do a good job. Maybe one day there's something he can find for us.
Maybe he'll steal you away from me.
or vice versa. you know, you never
Well,
know.
let's-
So,
Hey, I'm looking for salesman right now.
okay, well,
But listen, what's
they never want to put us on the air, Bruce. I don't know.
we got a Hall of Fame guy here,
Right.
so let's let him do the talking.
Okay, so here's the biggest thing that we want to point out. You were the music director, you were the program director, and the operations director of the Buzzard, WMMS. Give us a little bit how it started. I know you're from Boston originally.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, I was working in Boston with a person named Denny Sanders, and we were working at some small stations. Denny had an opportunity, he got hired at WMMS. He called me a few months later. The company was owned by Metro Media, one of the major media companies at the time. But Cleveland was going through rough times. It was losing population. Metro, in those days, you could own 7 AMs, 7 FMs, and 7 TV stations, maximum, according to the FCC.
Right.
Metro Media wanted to buy a station in Chicago. They had to unload one of the other stations. They unloaded Cleveland.
Okay.
They sold it to a small company called Malrite out of Mount Clemens, Michigan. The company, MMS was the largest station they had at the time. They had like Rochester and, you know, smaller markets. And they moved the corporate offices to Cleveland. And Denny Sanders was working there at MMS, and he said, hey, you know, everybody's leaving because Metro Media sold it, and we don't know what the new owners are and all that. He says, do you want to come down and, you know, work with me? I had no idea what Denny Sanders was trying to do. He was trying to get me to be running the station because he preferred being on the air. He didn't want to manage the station. He wanted somebody else to manage it. If he was picking,
He's like Bruce, he's a performer. He was a performer.
Yeah, and if he
Well,
could pick his own manager,
It would be you.
then he has job security.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
My understanding is
And
you're
I know
here-
him,
You're
so-
here 2 months and you become the big man.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. Hall of Fame twice, right? How many Hall of Fames?
The Hall of Fame.
You in the Broadcast Hall of Fame?
No, I've got some awards. I don't even.
Yeah, you
I don't
even
even
count them.
I don't even.
Do you keep the plaques on a shelf at your home?
Some of them.
Okay.
The ones I remember getting.
Pretty good. Now, I'm wondering, do you not remember because the 70s were a wild time? Is that what it's all about?
Well, yeah. If you lived the '70s, you can't remember half the things that happened.
Talk to Bob.
I don't remember the 2000s, but one of the things I think is important before we get into some of the heavy-duty stuff that you did there was maybe you could help explain to our audience about how important ratings are to radio and what made your job, what you had to do, and how you proved to be a successful person, right? You just can't, because radio, I mean, we don't know who's listening. The average, you can't. There's a way to know, and that's because of the ratings,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
And the ratings are, you know, they're estimates.
Right.
So you have to do your very best to show up in those ratings. In those days, people would fill out a diary. And a household would get a diary from Thursday through Wednesday, and you had to hope that you had enough of those people that were listening in the households that listened to your radio station.
right, because if you didn't have ratings, then an advertiser wouldn't
Yeah.
buy advertising on your station.
And then we don't get paid, and
And
the
then,
station
yeah,
goes
right.
under, and that's it.
And the more listeners you had, then the higher rate you
Yeah.
could charge for the advertising.
Yeah.
So your job was to make sure that you had ratings.
My
right?
job was to have content that would be compelling enough that people would listen long enough to show up in the ratings, so we could then get advertising and keep our jobs.
Right. So you just don't come out there and say, well, I love the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, so we're going to play them every half hour. Because even as popular as they were, you still had to come up with the kind
Yeah,
of
well,
programming
yeah.
and the personnel.
Yeah,
put it over, right?
and we also realized Cleveland was going through a rough time. You know, it was losing population. The Cleveland market was not being respected as one of the better markets to break music, and we're in a music station, and so we had to find a new way to be important to the rest of the country.
So what did you do? Tell us.
Well, what we started saying is, every station started, you know, it was our Woodstock generation. And instead of listening to small records with big holes, we started listening to big records with small holes. We went from singles to albums. Lifestyles were changing. And everybody was trying to create a formula. Everybody was playing at the time. It was, the Allman Brothers and Jeff Beck and, bands like that, as well as the Beatles and the Stones. And we realized, and it was something that was on my mind, is we've got to be different than everybody else in the country. Never mind Cleveland to make our mark.
Okay.
We have to be different than other stations. We have to start breaking music out of Cleveland, because then they'll start saying, hey, there's something happening in Cleveland, and they'll start supporting us with advertising, the record companies. We'll getting more concerts coming in here because we'll be breaking new music. And so, this was a game plan. We started reading things like the New Musical Express, British magazines, British music magazines. We were listening to everything coming out. And so at a time when, most album rock stations were playing just Led Zeppelin and Jeff Beck and Allman Brothers and like that, we were playing those too, but we were also finding acts like Roxy Music and the New York Dolls and bands that were not really popular in the rest of the country, Ian Hunter, Martha Hoople. And we started playing these bands.
Those are a lot of those bands Bruce's parents didn't let him listen to.
No, I have no idea.
Oh,
I've heard
okay.
the names,
Yeah.
couldn't name a song.
Oh,
Not the Hoople, couldn't do it.
Oh, they were good. They were good.
I know it sounds like a crossword answer, but it's not. But what about some of the DJs you had? Did they factor into the equation?
Oh, they were the ones that made me look good.
Okay, I remember
that's-
Murray Saul, for example.
Well, Murray was not a DJ. But Murray was one of probably the most interesting people who's ever on radio. Murray was at the time, late 40s. He came to the station and he met with the sales department. He met with the sales manager at the time, Dave DeCapua, and said, I can sell WMMS. And I remember him coming into the station the first time. And I'm seeing this guy who's, late 40s.
Shelby.
And saying, what can he do for this radio station? How can he sell this radio station? How can he understand? Little did I know, he probably smoked more pot than anybody else than the rest of the station combined.
And that's how he
He
sold
was
it?
a born-again pot smoke. He was 49 years old, but he was married at the time. His wife had a brother that was going to, he had a brother-in-law that was going to Kent State. Murray started going to visit, and he started smoking pot, and he started getting high. He started getting turned on to all this new music. And so he was saying the way he got his sales job is the fact that at his age, he could walk into the agencies that our salespeople look just like our listeners, all long hair, beards and all that. They wouldn't, when our salespeople would go into a straight agency, they were told to sit out in the hallway because they were scaring the other people. It was, at the time it was called the generation gap, and it really was a gap.
Yeah.
So Murray sold himself that I can walk in and I can get McDonald's, I can get advertising, because at the time we had head shops and, Ward's Folly and, like half of Coventry, those shops. But they didn't always pay their bills.
So he looked like a Republican, so to speak.
No, he didn't look like a Republican. He was
straight?
No, he's still.
Yeah.
I can't picture the guy. I remember how his show started every week.
Yeah.
It's Friday
Yeah.
or something like that,
Well, that was interesting how that came together. But anyway,
Well, tell us.
well, I got to tell you the first story first.
Bruce, let him talk.
But Murray ended up bringing major accounts on WMMS that paid their bills. Murray signed McDonald's, the May Company, Higbee's. These are blue chip accounts that we needed because the head shops.
He got the ad agencies because they're the one, right?
Yeah.
You got the Marcus advertisers, right? The Wise advertising.
And at the same point, Murray was a number of years older than me. I was 23. He was like 49.
Okay.
And yet I was able to learn from Murray the history of Cleveland. Murray and I would drive around. He would drive me down to Glenville and areas where he grew up. And he's saying, Larry Robinson was my neighbor here.
Wow.
Jules Belkin lived here. I mean, a lot. At the time.
Those are names.
Yeah. And everybody lived off Eddy Road.
Right.
In that area. And so I had a great education.
Well, some of us lived off of Kinsman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But, nonetheless, I was learning, I probably learned more about Cleveland from Murray than
So,
anybody
and
else.
you're in your 23 or 24, that young.
Yeah.
And you're in charge of this major station.
Well, we were FM, and in those days, the concentration was still on AM radio. So WHK was our AM, MMS was the FM.
I got to tell you, I read your book.
They used to call FM Find Me.
That's what I wanted. Yeah, the FM was called Find Me because
Nobody had FM radios.
No.
You couldn't buy in a car. If you wanted an FM radio in your car, you had to pay extra. Radios were sold as AMs back then.
But the sound was so much better that playing that album rock music
The sound
really
and the
sounded
signal, yeah.
so much better than what was playing on
And
AM.
all that funny stuff people were smoking back then, you put headphones
Yeah, I
on,
mean,
and
everything
the
sounded
stereo,
great.
it's like Pink
Oh
Floyd,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I mean, you could on FM it sounded so much better than on
Exactly,
AM,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Would it have sounded better if you heard Jan and Dean with that shit going on?
Well, the Jan and Deans, the stereo, they had the vocals on one side and the music on the other. They didn't do it right.
No.
They should have had Jan on one side and Dean on the other.
They were behind their time,
Yeah.
that's all.
So all right, so give us a Maurice Sal story, just because
Well,
I remember going home on Fridays
yeah.
from work, and I had to make sure that I was in my car before 6 o'clock because I wanted to hear Kid Leo play Bruce Springsteen.
Born to Run, yeah.
Born to Run, and Maurice Sal come on
Yeah.
and say, "It's Friday," right?
Yeah,
Did I do that right?
Yeah, you did it right.
Okay.
And the way that came about was, we were in new ground. So I mean, everything we were doing, we were experimenting, and with the music, with the programming we were doing. And there was one day I'm in my office and I hear the shouting coming down the hall, and I hear somebody screaming, "Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday." I finally get up, walk down, it's in the sales office. Murray is on the phone, and he's screaming, "Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday," into the phone. So I sit down and say, I've got to find out what's going on here. So when he finishes, I said, "What was that all about?" And he says, "Well, I have a deaf aunt." And he said,
Kind of like your mother, Bruce.
and he
Check.
said-
Go ahead.
And he said, "I was taking her to the doctor. I was taking her to the doctor, telling her that I had set up a doctor's appointment, and I was taking her on Tuesday." And I'd say, "Tuesday," and she'd say, "Friday, Tuesday, Monday," and he started screaming, "Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday." Somehow, I filed that away. As we got to know Murray, and Murray's now, he's in sales, and he looks that way, he's hanging out with the MMS staff. And somebody had a party, actually Murray had a party in his house, and there's music on, and Walter Bursky was our sales manager at the time, walks in, and he hears this music, and he's moving around like this, and Murray says, "Get down, Walter, get down." I hear that, and I sort of file that away. And then I remember Otis Redding had that song, "I've Been Loving You Too Long," and I go, "You got to. Yeah. And somehow, all of those things came about, and to make a long story short, we decided we should kick off the weekend and have this every Friday at 6 o'clock, because the shift changed. The reason it was not 5, it was 6, is Kid Leo was 2 to 6, Denny was 6 to 10, Betty Corbin was 10 to 2,
Right.
and then Bash all night. And so he said that the bridge from Leo to Denny, every Friday, let's have Murray on and do this get down. And then we came up with the character of the slave driver. And much of that was, people would send in saying, "You know what happened in my workplace this week?" And we made a get down out of it. And some of it was from our own workplace.
From your own work, right? But it was fantastic. I mean, but again, when you hear these things, you kept them in the back of your mind.
But
when the right time came.
But Murray in real life was bizarre. I mean, Murray used to create so many scenes in restaurants.
Nice guy,
And
though?
events. Yeah, nice guy.
Okay.
But, I remember we went into a Chinese restaurant once, and it was, Betty Corbin was with us, but Betty had to be on the air at 10. And this was like around 8. She said, "Well, why don't we," I said, "Why don't we, to Denny to Murray and Betty, why don't we go order everything, get in, just order everything at once. That way Betty will get the appetizer, the food, and we can get out here and she can get on the air." So the waiter comes over, and Murray says, "We're in a hurry, chop, chop." This isn't a Chinese restaurant. That was Murray.
Right.
I'll tell
Did
you
you see
one.
him doing that today? Okay.
I'll tell you one other Murray story. I'll have to change one word in it, though.
Okay.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Well, yes, I do. But we were at a party. This was like a holiday party, and it was a music business party. And everybody who was related to the music business in any way, whether you owned a record store, label, promoting, Belkins, the Agora, all of these people were at this party. And, Murray had that loud, bellowing voice. And he sees this one person, he didn't particularly like the guy's shirt. So he walks over and says, "Where were you born?" The guy says, "Hicksville, New York." He said, "Did you happen to live off this exit and there was a cul-de-sac?" And yes. Your home was a ranch, the bedrooms were on the second floor, and you had this big backyard? Yes. Your mother worked at Macy's, at Macy's during Christmas and all that? Yes. And everything that Murray is asking him, he's going, yes, yes. So Murray stops, and by this time, everybody's listening to this conversation now. Right. Murray stops, and I'll change the word. I'll use a slang instead. Murray stops, looks at him for a minute, and says, "I do believe I stooped your mother." Who else did Murray could get away with?
With a straight face.
Yeah,
Straight face.
Straight face.
Oh, and not only that, but pointing at him and freezing. This guy's jaw just hit the floor.
And you got all the big shots are there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was Murray.
All right. I can't believe how fast this time's going. We have to do one other thing.
We have to talk about Huawei.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Okay, so we've got so much more to talk about. We're going to figure out how we're going to do this maybe another time, John?
I'll come back.
Okay.
This is fun.
Come back? What do you think? Yeah.
This is fun.
We're just grazing on. There's so many. Bruce knows. I got all these notes here. You did radio without jingles. You were number one in the market for how many years in a row? I got people that don't know you and are too young maybe to know about MMS, don't realize just how powerful that station was.
She's talking about you right now.
Right there. Yeah. Get a picture of this youngster here. Yeah. Right. And she's going into radio, by the way. But anyway.
Go into online radio.
All right, yes. All right.
Good segue.
Great segue. The guy's a pro. Okay. Oh, wow. Tell us.
Okay, Oh Wow is it's really, I don't want to say the sequel of MMS, but it's designed the same way. If you listen to MMS back in the 70s and 80s, 90s even, it's sort of our sequel in that.
How do you listen to it?
You listen to it strictly online. They don't manufacture it. You cannot buy, you can't go to Target or Kohl's or Best Buy and say, "I want to buy a new FM radio." They don't manufacture.
And I didn't even think of that.
No, people don't. They don't manufacture radios. If you walk into even a Best Buy or even like a Big Lots, and you say, "Where are your radios?"
You're right, because I like to listen to transistor radios.
Next week. Excuse me, Jeff. Next week we're going to go to look for radios in stores.
Yeah, but
because I like to go to. I sit outside in the sun. And I like to put my transistor radio on and listen to a ball game, for example.
yeah.
Do you have a transistor radio?
I actually have one with
You
headphones.
are old, really.
Yeah, I know. All right,
Go
so
ahead, tell us. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, at this point, if you walk, where radios used to be sold in stores, they're now selling Bluetooth receivers, the speakers, or Bluetooth headphones.
right.
But the fact is that everybody is now,
We got one of these.
Yeah, everybody's listening on one of these.
Right.
And with Bluetooth, it's the same thing.
Okay, so how do I mean, I want to get it. So if I want to go to my iPhone,
You go your iPhone, you download the app.
which app?
It's an app for Oh Wow.
Oh, there's actually an. So
Yeah.
I go to the Apple apps.
Either go to the Apple Store, or if you Google Play if you have an Android.
Okay, so whichever one.
Yeah, and you download the app.
To Oh Wow.
Yeah,
That's
to
OWOW.
OWOW.
Okay, I want to make sure. All right.
You figured that out.
All right. So we go.
Or if you have a
iPad. What about an
if you have a
iPad?
laptop or
Okay.
anything like that, it's OWow.radio.
OWow.radio.
Okay, so now we
There
got
Yeah,
the
there it
app.
is.
Can
There
we
it is.
have, bring
Oh,
that
you
over.
got
Bring
it.
that over a second. We'll bring that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Let's get that on camera. Can we see that? Tyler Plevin, can you
Put
get that
Jeff
on?
Sumner's name in the credits this week. That was good.
That was good.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's Oh Wow. And then what do you do?
And then you hit the app, you hit the player, and we're on the air.
Well, here is on the air. And you have on the air now, I think,
We
your
have a-
wife is one of the people on
Well, Yeah, my wife was Ravenna Maselli, and
Ravenna,
she,
come on,
she
give
was
her
on
a
Magic.
plug. She was
You're
great.
married? That's who you're married to?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I remember that name.
Ravenna
I
Maselli.
married,
so
She was
hey, I
on.
married good.
You married up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's on, from 9 to 2.
9 to 2. Yeah, well, of course. You're gonna give her the all-night shift? Come on.
Well,
I know that, but okay.
well,
Is it a
also-
24-hour music station?
Yeah, we're 24 hours. We're live. We have we have live people on the air from 9 a.m. to midnight, and on weekends it's from 9 a.m. to.
Is it all music?
Yeah, it's all music.
And does there,
And
do people
it's
pay to listen to it?
Free.
So you guys gotta get that out there. You get the app, it's free. You
It's
can
like
listen.
our show.
If you have one of our slogans is it takes a dozen Sirius XM stations to equal one oh wow, because we play a wide variety of music, and we call it timeless rock. So it may be
Timeless rock. Let's get that out there. That's important.
And another slogan is it's the sweet spot between classic rock and indie rock. So you may be hearing music that is new, or you may be hearing music that's going. I mean, we'll play Chuck Berry, we'll play Jerry Lee Lewis, we'll play things even from the 50s.
But it's
Can we request
It's
songs?
everything
How
in
do
the mix.
How do we do that? Seriously, can I request a song?
Yeah, on.
Oh, it's
You can do
unbelievable.
it. On the app, you can request songs, you can leave messages, same way if you listen on a laptop.
Have you got the record companies coming to you like when you were at MMS and trying to break new
Some
groups?
Some are. The record companies are well behind the times. The record companies have been behind the times.
Well, who buys records anymore, first of all,
No,
right?
first of all, it's downloading.
Yeah.
And the record companies were late on that. They fought, instead of learning the technology themselves and applying it themselves, they were fighting, when the early Napsters and all that happened, they were fighting.
Right, I remember that.
Instead of looking at it and saying, hey, we want to be in this business too, if this is the future. And certainly you hear about people still buy vinyl, but they it's a very small group. And the same with CDs. I mean, they're not manufacturing CDs anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I
Do you have CD?
I spend on iTunes, a buck a song basically, and it's there forever.
And you have it on forever, right?
It's on my computer.
So the record companies are really just catching on now that we're playing, not only are we playing all this, the classic music, but we're playing a large amount of new music that also is tailored to a vast audience.
Okay, so because we're running out of time, how do you make money with this?
Advertising.
Okay.
And I'm looking for salespeople.
Bob,
And we give a good commission.
every time you say that, Bob gets upset because he wants to be an on-air personality. You gotta understand.
Well,
Bob was in radio. I'm sure he told you 6 times.
we can work it out too. We can work that out.
Yeah.
We can work that out.
Bob was in radio for 4 years until he was told by his first wife he didn't want to do it anymore. He's got that passion.
We just realized that when I was at WMJI, HK, and WRMS, you were on HK.
Yeah, we were talking about this. We were at HK.
Yeah.
We were like the nerds. We were on AM radio.
We were on AM.
Well,
Yeah.
We were on AM,
But
right?
it still counted.
it still counted back then.
Now, you don't have any talk shows?
No, but we're always,
Well,
We would
You never know.
go there 3 a.m. We would do a show.
well,
No, yeah, I
well, here's the
I
other
would
thing.
because I can't sleep anymore.
Our audience is 50 plus. I
Are
mean,
you talking about waist size? I mean,
well, in some cases that too.
because we could do that. We could do it.
But
Listen,
plus.
when they changed HK to Christian Broadcasting, I was willing to do it. I said I can be a Christian for an hour a week. They didn't bite.
no, they didn't even. Yeah,
Bob, you follow up on this.
That's like what was that Sam? What was that bread? Levy's bread. You don't have to be Jewish and like
Oh yeah,
Levy's bread.
that was from the East Coast, I think. You still got a bit of your Boston accent.
Oh yes, I
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, this is a great run here.
Well, I got to tell you, like I said, there's so much more we want to talk. You have to tell us you'll come back.
I
You
promise, yeah.
promise
Who wants
to come
the
back?
beer?
Yeah. 'Cause,
I'll start doing 1 minute. We'll start doing 1 hour shows. You guys have enough material.
What's that?
Thank you. That we could do an hour. No.
Yeah,
Oh, we
you
can
could
do an
do-
hour.
well,
We gotta tell
yeah.
some. We have
we
wives in
promised.
the audience.
We promised Corky and Lenny's we'd be out of here.
They want us out of here. They want us out of here about 6:15.
Look at all the food they gave us. So anyway, We used to get a lot of food. I don't know what happened. I get Lynn Phillips in Florida calls me and says, "You're in a deli. How come you don't have deli food out there?" Call Corky. Don't ask me. All right. Anyway, here's the book. And I'll tell you what. You come back, and we will give away one of your books to our audience. Okay, we're gonna. That's
And we'll give away something. And we'll give away something from
All
too.
right, we'll give something away from Oh Wow.
Yeah.
All right. But and this way people can get on Oh Wow, and when we have you back on again, we'll talk some more about that.
Yeah.
But we also want to, one of the things that Bruce and I have been talking about the last few weeks is that a lot of the people that we've been having on our show, we've been very lucky to have some of the top personalities from Northeast Ohio, like yourself, have come here, and we found out how so many of them have reinvented themselves and doing other things. This is a prime example, I think, Bruce. Here's a guy who was top of the heap in broadcast radio. You're not ready to sit back and retire, sit in an easy chair. You want to do something, and what do you love, and how can you still do it and do it your way?
But also, a big part of it too is it takes a team. I may be the ringleader, I may be the coach, I may be whatever you want to call it, but I need a head. It's due to a great staff. I've been very fortunate in my career, both with MMS, WMJI, when I had Lanigan and Malone and people like that on. I was very fortunate to always have a great staff, and I once again, when I put together Oh Wow, I really have a great team working behind me, and they make me look good. Is the way
All right. Okay. 2 weeks from tonight, we're going to have Neil Zerker, who is going to talk.
He's my neighbor.
Do you know Neil? Yeah, he lives out on the west side. Yeah, we got you to come all the way over from the west side. You think Neil will find his way over here? He does a one-tank trip. He's on a one-tank trip to get the letters.
No, but you have to check to see if his passport is current.
Yeah, they did stop you here for your passport. Okay, we'll check him out with that. But he'll be here. We're going to talk about his one-tank trips, which is this time of year. I think you'll agree it's a perfect time to talk about that.
I think he has a new car too.
He got rid of that old Nash Ramble.
I think he has a new one.
All right, we're going to ask him about that too. But he'll be on. And then we're going to set something up because we got to have you back. This is like,
I'll be back.
Bruce, what do you? I mean, this is crazy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching at home or wherever you watch. At work, good place. Put it on your computer. Anyway, we go to Fabulous Boomer Boys on YouTube, and please. Check in there where it says like and subscribe. And Oh Wow, get the app.
Get the app.
And next time when you're on, we're going to have some of our audience talk to us about what they think.
We're going to quiz.
Because you want to hear what they want.
I want to
hear what people thought of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait to try it out and hear what they have.
May I say something before we cut it out?
Yeah.
It's very important, Bob.
Okay. All right.
Thanks. First of all, I have one request. Somebody out there, I want you to send a message to Oh Wow at 3 in the morning saying, "Where are the Fabulous Boomer Boys?" That would be nice, okay? And then before, I want to say, those of you who want to come and be in our studio audience, I'm going to borrow your line now. Tuesday! Thank you, Alan.
Good night, everybody.